She gave him 6 daughters, but no son. And when he died, they took everything. Our home, our land, our dignity. They said, marry his brother or live with nothing. No one to run to, no hand to hold. She was all alone. Who will wipe the tears of a poor widow? Will justice speak? Or will tradition bury her alive? Welcome to Ifa Ancestral Tale. This is the cry of a widow.
The village of Nwakaego, where the red earth kisses the feet of ancestors. A woman's sorrow awoken something older than thunder. Her name was Nwakaego. A child is greater than wealth. And indeed, she had children, 6 daughters, brave as sunrise, strong as river stones, but no son. In Nwakaego, that was like planting a farm with no yams. People smiled to her face, but behind her back, they whispered, "She's only a half-wife. A woman without a boy is a house without a roof. I wonder how her husband will cope." But Obieze, her husband, was different. He laughed at such talk. He called his daughters his warriors. He called Nwakaego his pride. Then the rain came late and Obieze fell ill. At first, just a cough, then fever, then silence. Kitipia tried roots, chants, ashes, and fire, but the man faded like morning dew. By the 3rd moon, he was buried beneath a silk cotton tree, and with him went the only shield Nwakaego had in a war ruled by men. That's when they came, his brothers, not with comfort, not with color, but with claims and laws written in dogs. She gave him no son. His wealth belonged to us. She must marry his brother or live like a stranger. Nwakaego refused. She would not trade her grief for submission. She would not sleep in the bed of her husband's shadow. And so, they took everything. The land where her yams grow, the compound where her daughters learn to walk, even the old goats that fed her last child warm milk when her own body had no more. They took everything. And when she returned, barefoot and trembling, to tend the farm she had once sold, they dragged her by her wrapper and cast her into the depths like a corpse. "You are a widow," they spat. "You are no one. You are dust." But dust can rise in the right wind. She was not alone. Other widows watched from behind huts, from under veil, women whose names were no longer called, women who had buried husbands but were themselves buried alive by culture. One night, under the full moon, they came together, drawn by the river bank, where secrets could flow free. They didn't come with weapon, they came with griefs, raw, heavy, ancestral griefs, and they wept. For every girl born into shame, they wept. For every woman traded like a bag of yam, they wept. For every widow silent by tradition that served only power, not truth, they wept. They call upon the old ones. Allah, goddess of the earth, hear us. Mary, mothers of water, carry our tears. Anyawu, the all-seeing sun, expose this wickedness. Uduna, ndị otu, the silent dead, rise and witness. And then, the sky blink, the wind change, the earth tremble, though no one walk on it. The fire they lit that night did not go out. Even the gods turned their faces to listen, because the cry of a widow is not just a mourning, it is a warning. The rain stopped falling. The widows knew the earth was listening. The wind began to change, not loudly, no thunder, just a quiet shift, like the moment a mother pauses before she scolds her child. The rain disappeared, the river sighed and shrank. Even the sacred Uju stream, once too proud to dry, now coughed dust between its stones. The sky grew heavy, but refused to weep. The ground cracked in anger, and in the homes of the men who had mocked the widow, a different silence arrived. Men who once backed orders across the village square now sat trembling beside fireless earth. Their legs lost strength, their tongue grew thick, their eyes turned red with sleeplessness and dread. Yam barn collapsed in the night. Palm tree bore fruit that rotted before ripening, and goats deliver stillborn kids. It is the season, some whisper. It is a curse, others dare not say it loud. But Nwakaego did not dance in revenge. She and her 6 daughters still eat once a day. Sometimes only roasted leaves and river snails. But she woke early, she prayed softly, and she waited, not with bitterness, but with faith sharpened by fire. The villagers watched, some with pity, some with shame, and some still look in pride and say, what power does a widow cry have? Can salt water move the gods? But those women, the widows, they knew that the gods had always knew. When enough grief gathered in one place, even the gods stopped to listen. So they returned, not to complain, but to complete the ritual. To the deepest grove, past the shrine of Allah, where no man had dared tread without cleansing, barefoot, bareheaded, bare soul. They brought with them a torn cloth from a firstborn that died too young, a cooking spoon their co-wife broke once in rage, the scent of betrayal, the weight of silence they had swallowed too long. They kneel, they wept. They spoke not with mouth, but with spirit, and the earth cracked. A line spread across the soil like a warning. That very night, the wind changed again, but this time it has a name. Yes, Amozu, the wind that carried curses. It did not blow like a breeze, oh. Its ripping roof from houses tore down market shell and all through the sacred grove like an angry ancestor. Wolf flew, chickens screamed, children trembled under mats. And in the house of the late Obieze's eldest brother, he woke not to the crown of the croc, but to the east of snake, not one, but 100 coy, hissing, dancing between his yam abs like sentinel of judgment. They called for the dibia. They summoned the herbalists. They lit fire, pour libation, kill goats, but nothing worked. Because this was not a sickness of the body, oh. It was a rot of the soul. And still, the widows returned. They no longer begged to be heard. They know they were being heard. And they did not ask for revenge, oh. They asked for balance, for justice, for their daughters to walk with head held high, for their grandchildren to inherit peace, not shame. We did not come to destroy, one of them said. We came to remind the land that we are part of it too. The gods had opened their ears, but their judgment would come in a way no one expected. Wind had spoken, but what came next was no longer wind. The village believed the storm had passed. They thought the silence that followed was peace. But true justice doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it's walk barefoot. Sometimes it's wear a wrapper of patience. And sometimes it comes as a whisper that splits stone. For days, Umuala held its breath. No drum in the evening. No laughter by the market path. Even the palm wine tapper said the tree no longer gives sweet sap, only bitterness. Men, once proud, with chest rise high, now cross the road when widows approach. Children were warned, do not speak her name, or the wind will hear you. But it was too late. The wind had already spoken, and now the earth was sending her messengers. On the 7th night, moonless, breathless, they came, not with sword, not with charm, not with chant or noise, but with presence. They were women, old, wrapped in deep indigo clothes, barefoot, veiled in silence. They called themselves Ndi Nwanyi Echirenche, the women who wait and watch. No one knew where they come from. No one had seen them pass the village gates, and yet they appeared, moving in rhythms, as if the earth had given birth to them directly. Nwakaego stepped out of her hut, her youngest daughter gripping her wrapper. She stared and understood. She had seen them before in dream, in the smoky vision after prayers, in the hutch between a widow's cry and the wind's reply. They were not just women, she whispered. They were the mothers of pain, the keepers of broken truth. They said nothing, not to the chief, not to the men, not even to other women. They walked to the village square, the very place where Nwakaego had once been disgraced, and sat there, a perfect silence, eyes closed, and resting on knees, head tilted towards the ground, listening to something no one else could hear. And then they wept. But it was not the weeping of grief, it was the weeping of memory, of pain hidden for generations, of name buried without honor, of bruise covered by wrapper and shame. Their tears hit the earth like blessing and curses mixed together. And as they cry, the sky cried too. Rain fell for the first time in weeks, not with violence, but with meaning. Tears returning home. That very night, the farmland that was stolen from Nwakaego grew wide. In one single night, the grass grew higher than a man's weight. Throne guided the soil like warriors. The man who had beaten the youngest widow screamed in the night, his arm twisted backward in his dream, broken by something unseen. And the village sacred gun, the one always struck by elders during judgment, split in two. No one touched it. It broke during a meeting where they tried to ban the widows from further gathering. Still, the widows raised no arms. They poured no poison. They whispered no curse. They only wept. They only waited. They only listened. Because when the gods truly act, mortals do not need to lift a finger. And now, even the children of Umala, playing by the tree, stopped mid-laughter and looked to the sky. Something is coming, they said. Not just justice, but a change so deep, it will rewrite the songs of our ancestors. Some say justice is a sword, but in Umala, it came as a mirror. When the mirror was raised, it showed not just the face of the guilty, but the forgotten faces of the wounded and the gods standing behind them. The widow had never asked for war. They were not warriors by choice. They were mothers, farmers, keepers of quiet stories. But when silence turned to suffering and pain refused to die quietly, they rose, not with fire, not with blood, but with truth. And that truth, like a restless spirit, began to walk the village paths. On the final day, just as the first rooster crowed, the widow gathered beneath the ancient Iroko tree, the one that had watched generations fall and rise. This was the same tree where Nwakaego had once been shamed. Now, she stood tall beneath its branches. Each widow came dressed in pure white, glowing like the sky after a storm. By their side stood their daughters, head high, eyes strong. Behind them, the land itself seemed to watch, as if holding its breath. One by one, the villagers appeared, drawn not just by fear, but by something older than tradition. Even the chiefs come with walking stick, heavy from history, and hearts finally softened by consequence. Not talking, not shouting, just silent and waiting. Then Nwakaego stepped forward. She held no staff, no curse, no weapon, only a small calabash filled with tears. Tears from nights spent hungry. Tears from daughters forced to walk in silence. Tears from women buried while alive in shame. And slowly, she poured it onto the earth. The ground drank the pain, and the sky responded. Cloud parting, light return. From the forest came the priestess of Allah, tall and silent, her feet bare, her eyes holding the weight of 10,000 women before her. She said nothing at first, just walked to the center of the gathering, looked around, and finally spoke. You fed your greed with the sorrows of your sisters, she said. You harvest grapes thinking it would bear fruit. You call daughters lesser, and now the land refuses to feed you. She turned to the men, the same ones who had once stripped the widows of honor. Until you restore what was stolen, until you clean what you stain, until you see your mothers in every widow and your daughters in every girl, this land will not bless you. And that was when it happened. One by one, the men kneel, not in show, not in ceremony, but in truth. They wept like children, finally hearing their mother's voice. And before all, they vow to return every piece of stolen land, to restore the homes they destroy, to rewrite the law that made widow beg to exist. From that day, no woman could be inherit like a goat. No child would suffer shame for not being born a boy. No widow will ever again be forced to choose between survival and dignity. Nwakaego did not smile in pride. She simply turned and walked home with her 6 daughters, not behind her, but beside her. Behind them, the other widows follow, not in mourning, not in silence, but in power. They had cried to the gods, and the gods had answered, but not with thunder, not with blood. The gods changed the story, and from that day, when little girl asked, Mama, who changed Umwala? Their mothers would whisper, the women who waited, the women who wept, the women who rose like rivers. This is not just the story of Nwakaego. It is the story of many, of every widow silenced by tradition, of every daughter told she is not enough. But when voices rise together, not in anger, but in truth, even the gods must listen. Let this story remind us, justice does not always shout. Sometimes it weeps, sometimes it waits, but in the end, it always comes. If this story moves your heart, share it, speak it, pass it on, because stories like this are not fictions, they are echoes. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification bell so the next tale finds you before the spirit whisper it away. And share the stories. so that the wisdom of the ancestors is never buried. This is Ife Ancestral Tale. Till next time, stay rooted, stay guided, be blessed.